What are the best passports in each continent? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the best passports within each region of the world and talking about which one offers the best incentives for someone who is looking to diversify their passport portfolio. Now, obviously, all of these are subjective. In regards to citizenship, it really does depend upon what you as an individual are looking for, as not every citizenship may be an incentive for you. But in regards to starting off with North America, there are 4 honourable mentions that I would like to give out in regards to, in North America, what the strongest passports are. Now, the first 2 would be the United States and Canada. Now, what we have been seeing in the past few years is that the US passport has been getting a little bit weaker, but it is still quite a strong passport, especially when we compare it to the international sector. If you are an American passport holder, you can have a lot of travel freedom across the world. Yes, you are losing out on some countries like Russia and Brazil, but other than that, across the world, you are going quite well. The same principle applies to Canada. However, I know that in this space, there are not a lot of people who are looking to get Canadian or American citizenship, but in regards to travel freedom, they are quite strong, but they might not be the best citizenships for you. However, there are some other citizenships in this region of the world that are still very good. They're not as strong as the American passport, but once again, they are certainly very strong when we look at it on the international scale. You know, a prime example of this would be a country like Mexico. Yes, they do not have visa-free or ESTA access to the US, but it's a very strong passport when we look at how much access they have across the world. If you are traveling on a Mexican passport, you're going to be able to get into most countries without a visa. Same principle applies to the majority of the Caribbean community passports. Yes, some CARICOM passports are stronger than other ones, some are a little bit weaker, but an honourable mention would be the Barbadian passport. The Barbados passport is certainly a very strong passport. Caribbean community passport, so if you get that skilled worker paper done, then you can live in any Caribbean country that you want under a Barbadian citizenship. And other than that, if we're merely talking about travel, Barbados opens the world quite well for you. And obviously one of the most monumental things that I talk about on this channel would be the allowance of dual nationality. And so far, all of the countries that I've talked about all allow dual nationality. You can have multiple passports and a Barbadian citizenship, a Mexican citizenship, an American citizenship, and a Canadian citizenship. Moving on to the South American continent. Now, when we talk about South American passports, we really do start to see that it does depend upon what the individual is looking for. For example, in my opinion, one of the strongest passports in South America would be the Chilean passport, because it is the only passport in South America and in Central America that grants you visa-free or ESTA access to the US. No other country in that region offers that to you apart from Chile. However, it does depend upon what you are looking for, because other strong passports in South America, like a Brazilian passport or an Argentinian passport, yes, they do not have ESTA access to the US or visa-free access to the US, but they also have some other countries that Chile is missing out on. And now moving on to Europe. For the starting point of this, I'm mainly going to be talking about European Union and Schengen area passports. Now, in regards to Schengen area passports, apart from a passport like Hungary, which has had some restrictions implemented on it from the United States in regards to travelling as a Hungarian citizen, the majority of the Schengen area passports are pretty much the same in regards to strength. However, some of the honourable mentions that I would give out personally in regards to allowing dual citizenship, not having mandatory military service, and being countries that a lot of people are talking about getting would be countries like France, Malta, Portugal, many British citizens who are doing the Irish citizenship by descent program. You know, they have a parent or a grandparent who was from Ireland, they get Irish citizenship after applying through descent. So in regards to the European Union, there really are a lot of benefits to that region. There are certainly a lot of strong passports there. Yes, the majority of them are the same. Some of the weaker EU passports would be countries like Bulgaria or Romania. But other than that, when we look at the Schengen area, they're pretty much the same. Now, staying focused on Europe, but going outside of the Union and outside of the Schengen area, an honourable mention would be a country like Serbia, a good combination of Eastern countries that they have visa-free access to and Western countries. You know, you've got European Union, you've got the Schengen area, you don't have the US just yet. You've got countries like Russia and China, which I think is extremely rare, especially for a European passport to have visa-free access to China. So if you are looking to travel there, Serbia is going to offer that for you. And now moving on to the African continent. Now, in regards to Africa, the majority of the passports on the mainland are extremely weak. You know, there is no strong passport that comes out of the DRC. You know, they're very weak passports. However, one thing that I have noticed is that the small island countries in the east of the African continent do actually have rather strong passports. You know, a country like Seychelles or Mauritius, very strong passports, not the strongest in the world, but in regards to African countries, certainly very strong and probably the best options to get if you do want to get an African passport. You know, Seychelles allows dual citizenship. Mauritius also allows dual citizenship for natural born citizens. However, if you are naturalizing in Mauritius, chances are you will have to renounce your current citizenship, which does sort of lead me to the conclusion that Seychelles may be the best passport in Africa because they allow dual citizenship and it is a very strong passport on the international sector. And now moving on to Asia. Once again, Asia has a bit of a reputation. You know, you look at a Mongol passport or a Bhutani passport, an Indian passport, Chinese passport, they're not strong. However, there are some Asian countries that certainly have very strong passports. You know, an honourable shout like this would be Japan, South Korea, Singapore. But a country that not a lot of people talk about, I have made a video about this before, would be the country of Brunei, because one thing that the Bruneian passport, the South Korean, the Japanese and the Taiwanese have in common is that they all have visa-free access to the US, which in my opinion does make a passport somewhat stronger. And Brunei is interesting because it is the only country on Borneo Island to have access to the US. And in that region, in Southeast Asia, you know, where all the major islands are, you know, like the Philippines and stuff like that, Brunei is the only country that has ESTA access to the US, and it is very strong. Once again, you've got European Union for all 4 countries. The 2 major problems that you will see in regards to Asian passports is that the majority of them do not allow dual citizenship, so they will require you to renounce any of your current passports, and the majority of them also have mandatory military service. You know, a country like Singapore, they have conscription. A country like South Korea, they have mandatory military service. Taiwan is reintroducing it next year. Japan seems to be the only one, maybe Brunei as well, that doesn't have mandatory military service with their passports, but their passports are still very strong. Now moving on to the final region, that would be Oceania. And the 2 main passports in this video are the obvious ones. They would be Australia and New Zealand, the Trans-Tasman area. Very strong passports. You're going to have a lot of access across the world. However, an honourable mention would be the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands passport is certainly very strong. I have made a video a few months ago talking about the most underrated passports in Oceania. You know, a country like Palau, Solomon Islands, Marshall Islands. These passports are actually really strong. Obviously, when we think of Oceania, we often think about a country like Vanuatu, which has had their passport weakened because of their lack of due diligence with their CBI program. But any other countries like the Marshall Islands or Solomon Islands, they have very strong passports. Let me know which citizenship out of these ones you would like to get. And if you like this video, you can click right here and subscribe to get this information on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on my other social medias, you can follow me on Instagram, X and Rumble. They'll all be linked down below in the description.